Bless family. Just dropped my daughter off. And I wanted to speak to someone, I want to speak to you all about something that's been pressing on my mind lately. I just watched a video. It was from 1993. It was of a black girl talking about it. Why do um, women who are white not like, they claim to not like black women, but they but they tan, and now it's even worse. They tan, but also they fill their lips, they pump up their behinds, BBLs, and everything else to look like women who are color, but that they seem to hate us. And I wanted to about that because I think that as much as we talk about history, I don't think we've put the pieces together. And I worked for the school board, and I didn't even think of this when I was working at the school board. I didn't think about it until like this year. The Lord would kind of reveal this to me. Good morning. Firstly, I wanted to say that the people who were taken as slaves and sent to the West Indies, sent to America, sent to and wherever else in the world that the people of color were dispersed to, this was a curse. It was due to disobedience, and you can find the scriptures associated with this in Deuteronomy. The Bible talks about the Jews, that they were disobedient. He was going to disperse them throughout the world, and they were going to plant and not eat. Like, they were going to do all this work and not reap from what they've worked for. I'll find the scripture and put it in the description of this live. Anyway, so the true Jews are people of color. And the people who sent them, the people that were white, didn't just go to Africa and just take them. They were given by other black people. All people in Africa at that time were black. Africa's of black people, a black ancestral line. Now, the people that were taken from Africa were given up. African people are wealthy. They're rich people. Africa is rich. This depiction that people have, that used to have of Africa, of like these children sitting on the side of the road with flies on them, all kinds of stuff, to me, as far as I could tell, seemed to be a money grab, because Africa is wealthy. They have, I had a friend, well, he was an acquaintance. He took me on a couple dates. He's from Africa, and he was a prince. So these people who have privilege and have money in Africa had people who served them. They had people who served them food, did all kinds of work for them. So the people that were chosen from or dispersed throughout the globe were disobedient according to Deuteronomy, and they were chosen based on their strength, their intelligence, their strength, their intelligence, and their endurance. They were strong back people. Okay. Now, during the times of slavery, right? These are the slaves were sold. People who had money bought these slaves to enhance their lifestyle. So the women were used to cook and clean. Everyone worked the land, women or male. But the women, depending on who they were sometimes chosen for whatever reason to be a house slave. And oftentimes the slave master would go into the woman, one of the women, whoever he chose, and procreated with her. I don't think he intended to procreate with her, but I think there was some kind of draw to maybe the women. I guess once a woman is in the home and you see her cooking, cleaning, and being a nurturer to your own kids or whatever, there might be some attraction or some kind of allure to her. Anyway, there are a lot of children that were produced under these circumstances. There's a lot of people, particularly in the West Indies, a lot of people that are fair-skinned and ended up being allowed or permitted to be in the home because they were kin to the slave master, right? Now, think about this, okay? The slave master went in on the black women who oftentimes were married, even if it just meant their own little jump the broom kind of ceremony, married to somebody. They had a partner. Now these males were never allowed to stay with their wives. They had other quarters, so they could go into their wives, they could make other slaves, make children, but they weren't allowed to have a family. So these women lived on their own with their kids or on their own, and the slave master could have their way with them. Now the males were on their own, right? And then imagine now these slave masters have these children with these slaves, and because they're their kin, they bring them into the home. And so now imagine the wife. The wife, when these slaves are coming into the situation, first of all, we are intimidating, especially if you're going to be chosen as a slave. You're going to be strong. You're going to be probably maybe muscular for the males, intelligent, and God knows what other things you bring to the table. So these people are kind of go be in the house with the wife. The wife who is white, right, working alongside of her. There's a lot of movies that depict this, right? So imagine now, there's a dynamic of probably this woman resenting this woman, and probably even the child. The slave woman who didn't choose the situation was brought into the home with her own child, probably breastfeeding that child. And if there's a child of the wife, she breastfed both. This is a known thing. She oftentimes will breastfed her own child plus the child of the wife, so that the wife can preserve her body for her. This is supposed to be a luxury. But no one thought about the damage, the emotional damage that all this would do. That the consequences of the choices that were made based on slavery, what it would do. Now, the hatred that white women have towards black women, I think I believe stems from this. It stems from the resentment that a woman that's not of color would have towards a black woman, because the slave master went in and found her alluring, like almost like Sarah Bartman. If you don't know who she is, you can please Google her. I'll try and find a link and put it in the description. And then again, there are slaves that were not chosen to be in the house, alongside with the slaves that were brought into the home because the slave master procreated with these slave women, because the children could pass for white. So the lighter the skin, the more acceptable those children were. Now think about now in the West Indies, it's a big deal. This kind of thing drives me. It boggles my mind, because I'm a first Canadian born Jamaican. And in Jamaica, there's something about being light skinned that's absolutely insane. You could be the ugliest I'm sorry. You could be not as attractive as somebody else. I'm sorry. There beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but I've seen people get off on claiming that they're so good looking just because they're color. They're not even the kind people. And because they're light skinned, they feel they have privilege. I'm thinking, and I always say this: if I could paint you green and you're still attractive, you're attractive. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. Nothing to do with the color of your skin. So this idea in the West Indies, particularly, that you're better because you're light skinned, is a slave mentality that has not been lost. When Abraham Lincoln came in, and I know there's different times when different places had given their independence. They said, go out there. They said, okay, you're slaves, but what's happening to you is unfair. Go out and live. No one said go out there and heal. No one said go out there and these are the resources that are available to you. They just said go out there and figure it out. And I imagine being stuck in a situation where you're demanded to do what you're told to do, and then all of a sudden one day they say you can go and be free. And at that point, you always wanted to be free. The question is, when you're free, what do you do? Now, think about the things that people of color had to endure. Even though they were free, they were not subjected to the same rules that people that were not of color would follow. There were certain things they couldn't explore. There's certain things the advantages they weren't allowed to have because they were of color, obviously. And even though a lot of those things have changed, there's still an unspoken boundary for people of color because they are of color. I worked at the school board, and I'm going to say this, but I'm not working there anymore, so I can say this very blatantly. I had to be much more intelligent, much stronger, much more crafty to survive in that environment. And even the people I went to school with that were of color, when they knew I worked for the board, they were like, how did you get in there? And I had to speak, like, you see how I'm speaking up clear English. You have to be so much more polished to even get in the door. And then you have to constantly be proving yourself because you're of color. I'm saying this straight hand. No one can contest this because this is my experience. So the idea, all this hatred that we're experiencing right now is based on unhealed wounds, not just for people of color, but for the slave master's wife who had to compete with a woman who didn't even choose to be there. These children who were chosen because they were lighter skinned, given privilege because they were lighter skinned, just because they were kin to the slave master, right? I have relations with people who are generally from Africa. When I tell them I'm from Jamaica, my background's Jamaican, you could see there's something that's unspoken that I don't even know what their thinking is about it, but they know something that I don't know, that we don't know. They obviously know that we are a product of something, that there's people who went to Jamaica, the West Indies, or the US, went there because of something. Not just because they were strong or whatever else. They were given away. No one's going to come into Africa and just take people. It doesn't work like that. Those depictions that they have it's to glorify people that are white and to make them seem stronger than they are. But people of color are strong. Look at the athletes that we have. Look at the basketball players, football players. Most of them are of color because that's their ancestors. Their genes are that way. So no one's going to walk into Africa and just take people. They were given away. That's how it went down. Look into it. I've met people who are from Africa that are known to be princes there. They have servants. Their servants aren't white, they're black. We need to think about the pain that people have had to endure and pass down that hatred to their children. So this is where we're at right now. We're at that place right now because people haven't healed and didn't think of the consequences of how the horrific experiences people of color have had at the hands of people that are white, but also to the pain, not through being beaten, but the wife, and also to maybe the guilt of maybe the slave masters, the ones who actually were kind, because not all of them were wicked. Some of them were, because they had money, they had a slave, and fell for the slave master, for the slave, one of the slave women. Think about it. Think about this. We need to think about this. So we're questioning why. Hatred is a spirit. It's a spirit. You don't have to have a direct experience with someone to hate somebody. Someone could plant all these ideas in your mind and make you think that someone is someone worth hating and just hate them just because of what you heard. This is what's happening. This is what's been going on. So my goal is to try to encourage people to heal. I've had to go through a process of healing myself. And I believe that all of us have even the way I was raised, my dad, when he was raising us, used to beat us like we were slaves. We used to go to school and cover up our marks. And I don't know if everyone was like this, but I know my dad was extraordinarily wicked when it came to keeping us in check. We were so obedient because my dad used to send us to go get the belt. And it was normal to me until I went to school and I learned about slavery. Then I found out this is probably where this concept came from, right? To beat your kids into submission. Also, to scripturally speaking, he talked about sparing the rod, spoiling the child. I don't think it should have been that aggressive, but my dad was pretty horrific with what he did. I'll give you one quick example before I go. Winter, so similar to what we're having right now, when my brother and my sister and I were living. I don't think my older sister was there. I think she ran away at that point. It was just the three of us. And my brother came home without his scarf. Now, my dad he raised us. He ran the house like a military sergeant. Like, he knew when things were missing, when things were out of place. If he put something down and we touched it, he knew. He just seemed to know for whatever reason. Hold on. Let me put the light on. Hold on. Okay. So one day my brother came home from school and he didn't have his scarf on. And my dad asked him, like, where's your scarf? It was a windy, cold day, and the scarf must have fell off and dropped into the mud. My brother told my father this. He told my dad that scarf fell off and dropped in the mud. My dad beat him. He beat him and beat him and beat him till I broke. And I said, Dad, I'll go get it. I got my hat and all my stuff on, and I walked. I asked him like where the scarf might have been, and I walked because we have a certain path that we used to walk to school. I walked that path and I found this scarf in the mud. I had brought with me a plastic bag, and mind you, I must have been maybe between the ages of 8 and 10 at this time. So I was young. We were all young. So I went and I walked and I found the scarf, put the muddy scarf in a bag, and brought it home. I didn't know what it would have taken for him to stop beating my brother, but he beat him relentlessly. Mind you, my brother didn't drop the scarf on purpose. He dropped it because it was windy. And when it fell in the mud, he didn't know how to get it. Anyway, that mentality about spanking someone that way it has to be based on slavery. Because love does not look like that. Love for your child, love for your wife does not look like that. There is a healing that needs to happen, and I know there's lots of people who have overcome that and maybe suppressed it and are out there. They're professionals. They are teachers, doctors, lawyers, superintendents. They are in positions to serve and protect. They're judges. But let me tell you, very soon, sooner than later, you're going to find out that these people are broken as well, that there's healing that had to have happened. You're going to have a lot of people, something like what happened with Diddy, Jay-Z, Beyonce. There's some things coming out in the Epstein files that you're going to find out, although they have money, these are some very broken people. Very broken people. Anyway, this is all I had to say this morning. I just wanted to check in. I was pretty heavy for Thursday morning. The week's almost over. Just want to let you know that I was a couple days I've been off. I was studying. I'm studying to develop, to get some more knowledge, but I'm also studying. I won't share it now, but I really do believe that when people of color were set free, even though Abraham Lincoln was commended for setting them free, I really think there's a double-edged sword there, because he set them free, but he set them free knowing they wouldn't have the same opportunities as other people would have, that they would have to resort to doing things like pimping, selling drugs, doing things under the table to have a comparable life. This is why there's such thing as a ghetto. There should never be a ghetto. Black people are too intelligent, too strong, too resourceful. Even the ones who play sports. Behind the scenes, they were encouraged to cheat on their wives, to have many women, to do drugs. A lot of them are, some of them lose the money that they have. There's so many means to make your money grow. For someone who plays a sport, especially a sports at like an NBA level, the CFL, NFL level, there's no reason why a person who makes that kind of money, even in a short time, could not make their money multiply and make money for their generations to come. This is what I'm studying right now. So when I'm done, I will share it with you. But man, let me tell you, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of studying. But what I'm learning is so enlightening. There's people who came here years ago who decided just to buy a house or just work and just teach your kids to work and buy a house or whatever else. There's so much more ways to make money. People didn't have to resort to pimping or selling drugs. That didn't have to be. There's so many ways that I'm learning about right now that should be taught in school. It's so disheartening. Anyway, as I go along and I get my things together, I'll share more about it. But people of color were gypped. As much as they were set free, I really don't, I'm not commending Abraham Lincoln, because he didn't equip people of color, knowing where they're coming from, to be able to survive honestly. And then they consequence them for cutting corners. It's insane. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you for supporting the channel. I will try and come on later. I don't know, I'm trying to catch up on some sleep because the classes were like 6 hours long. It was so long. Anyway, I will talk to you hopefully later, if not tomorrow. Remember, guys, you are made marvelous. By the way, if you are in Toronto, Canada, I thought she could handle everybody, but my youngest daughter, she, due to circumstances beyond her control, all of our control, what we went through, she had to learn how to do hair very early. She braids hair and she's very good at it. She's made it her business because it was so difficult for her generation to find jobs that she My girls are just so smart. I'm so enamored with my girls. She has a business. She does hair. She braids. She does knotless braids. She does everything. So I'm going to put the link to her Instagram in the description of this live. If you're in the, and she's mobile, so she'll come to you. So if you are in a position where you need someone to do your hair, she does guys' hair too. She's done some awesome styles. Check out her page when I put it under here. She is absolutely gifted. And her hair, her hands, they say her hands grow hair. She doesn't do the hair too tight, but she does it neat. And she's not happy with me right now, but I support her wholeheartedly. So I'm going to put the link to her Instagram under this live. Okay, guys, if you feel so inclined, please support her. And happy Black History Month. And I'll continue to, as God downloads into me, I'll continue to share what he shares with me. Okay, guys, love you. Until next time, remember, you're made marvelously. You're a special generation of people created for this very special time. All right, guys, love you.